Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A federal judge in Minnesota denied a request by state officials to temporarily block the surge of 3,000 federal immigration agents that led to the fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Pretty in Minneapolis. Federal Judge Kate Menendez, who was appointed by President Biden, said in her ruling, quote, "A proclamation that Operation Metro Surge has simply gone so far on the other side of the line is a thin reed on which to base a preliminary injunction," unquote. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey denounced the ruling, saying, quote, "This decision doesn't change what people here have lived through, fear, disruption, and harm caused by a federal operation that never belonged in Minneapolis in the first place," unquote. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on X calling the ruling, quote, "a huge legal win for the Trump administration." Meanwhile, ProPublica identified the two federal immigration agents in Alex Pretty's fatal shooting, 43-year-old Jesus Ochoa and 35-year-old Raimundo Gutierrez. CBP has refused to release their names and has disclosed little information about Pretty's killing. It comes as Minnesota Public Radio is reporting the police chief in the city of St. Peter intervened to prevent federal immigration agents from detaining a local resident who's a U.S. citizen. The woman was tracking and recording federal agents in her car. In a video she shared with Minnesota Public Radio, federal agents chased the woman, then got out in front of her, forcing her out of her car with guns drawn. The agents then pinned her down and handcuffed her before detaining her. She was later released when the local police chief got involved. It's the first time a police department in Minnesota intervened in federal immigration activity since the surge of federal agents began in Minnesota 2 months ago. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon and independent journalist Georgia Fort were arrested last week on federal charges for reporting on a peaceful protest inside a St. Paul church where a top ICE official serves as a pastor. A federal grand jury indicted Fort and Lemon for interrupting church service and depriving congregants of their religious freedom. Lemon and Fort maintained they were not participating in the protest, but were reporting as journalists. They were released from federal custody Friday and vowed to fight the charges and keep reporting. This is Georgia Fort speaking shortly after she was released.
I would challenge every journalist in America to ask themselves how it felt to them today to see their colleagues be arrested for reporting the news. And if any of them say that it made them fearful, it made them concerned, it made them second guess going out tomorrow and covering what's happening in their communities, then yeah, I would say that that was probably the intent.
We'll speak with Georgia Fort after headlines. In more related news, 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos and his father reunited with family members in Minnesota Sunday after they were released from an ICE family jail in Texas amidst mounting pressure from activists and elected officials. Texas Congressmember Joaquin Castro shared footage on social media as he welcomed Liam and his father, Adrian Conejo, outside ICE's South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley and flew them home to Minneapolis. Liam and his dad were detained in a suburb of Minneapolis last month. Images of Liam went viral after he was picked up by federal agents while still wearing his Spider-Man backpack and a blue hat with bunny ears. Castro visited Liam and his father inside Dilley last week as protests intensified, demanding Liam's release, as well as the release of all immigrant families detained in Dilley, where children and their parents led a protest last weekend over inhumane conditions. Congressmember Ilhan Omar later posted a photo with Liam and his father with a caption that read in part, quote, "Liam is home now. He was wearing his bunny ears again." According to the Marshall Project, the Trump administration detains around 170 immigrant children on average per day, compared to 25 children a day under President Joe Biden. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets this weekend as nationwide protests continue against Trump's immigration crackdown and escalating militarization. More than 300 anti-ICE protests were held across the United States Friday, including in Minneapolis, New York, Washington, D.C., Tucson, Arizona, and dozens of other cities. Chants of abolish ICE and no ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA echoed across the country. Thousands of others also participated in a nationwide general strike Friday. This is a protester in San Francisco.
I hope what will happen is that more people will wake up. It's true that peaceful protests, nonviolent protests, is what brings down dictatorships. There's a huge sacrifice for that, but that's what we need to do, and people need to wake up to this.
Reports have emerged of demoted Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino allegedly making offensive remarks about the Jewish faith of Minnesota's U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen. That's according to the New York Times, which said Bovino's comments were made during a phone call with Minnesota prosecutors earlier this month. Bovino reportedly mocked Rosen for observing Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, and used the term chosen people in a sarcastic way. The call reportedly came as Bovino attempted to pressure Rosen to more harshly criminally prosecute protesters Bovino accused of allegedly obstructing federal agents from enforcing Trump's mass immigration raids. Rosen was absent from the call, and Bovino complained he'd been hard to reach because of Shabbat. This comes as details have emerged of Bovino being compared to a Confederate general in an email sent to him by a colleague in 2018. At the time, 2 Border Patrol agents sued Bovino, accusing him of discrimination and obstructing the promotion of Black and Latino agents within Customs and Border Protection. The city of Chicago has ordered local law enforcement to investigate and document reports of illegal activity conducted by federal immigration agents. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson issued the executive order this weekend as tensions continue to rise with the Trump administration over federal immigration operations. Johnson wrote on social media, quote, "Nobody's above the law. With today's order, we're putting ICE on notice in our city. Chicago's leading the way as the first city to create infrastructure for holding ICE and CBP agents accountable for crimes against our communities," Mayor Johnson wrote on X. The Justice Department has released over 3 million pages of the Epstein files. Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche says the review was over and that it's unlikely anyone else will be prosecuted. The Wall Street Journal reports the names of 43 survivors were left unredacted in the files that were made public. According to the Wall Street Journal, more than 24 names of survivors who were minors are exposed in the filings, along with identifying details that make them readily traceable, including home addresses. The release of the document sheds more light on the late convicted sex offenders' ties to Hollywood elites, CEOs, and government officials. For instance, Epstein had used his contacts to arrange meetings for Steve Bannon with European government leaders. The 2 men had dinner together often, and Epstein had offered Bannon to stay at his Paris apartment, his Palm Beach house, and use his private plane on multiple occasions. The DOJ also released photos of Brett Ratner, the director of Melania Trump's Amazon film, with Epstein and several young women. Ratner was accused by 6 women of sexual impropriety in 2017. We'll have more on the Epstein files later in the broadcast with the journalist who's covered Jeffrey Epstein and a lawyer for Epstein survivors. In Gaza, Israeli forces will reportedly reopen the Rafah crossing into Egypt for only 6 hours a day and enforce strict travel restrictions on Palestinians. The Rafah crossing has been shuttered for 2 years due to Israel's war and blockade and is being reopened as part of the so-called ceasefire brokered by the Trump administration between Israel and Hamas. Tens of thousands of sick and severely wounded Palestinians, including children, are eagerly waiting waiting to leave Gaza for urgent medical care. Within the new restrictions, 150 people will be allowed to leave Gaza through the southern Rafah crossing, and 50 people will be permitted to enter the territory. That's according to Al Jazeera. Gaza health officials estimate over 1,200 Palestinians have died in Gaza while waiting for medical transfer due to Israel's closure of the Rafah crossing. Meanwhile, Al Jazeera reports some 12,000 medical staff in Egypt are preparing to receive medical evacuees from Gaza, with hundreds of hospitals and ambulances ready to treat Palestinian patients, among them children who've lost limbs in Israeli strikes. This is Mohammed Mahdi from Khan Yunis, who is getting ready to evacuate Gaza with a patient.
It feels like a dream, especially as my father. We had lost hope of him receiving treatment, and then they suddenly called us and told him to come to receive treatment and travel. This system is a dream, I swear.
This comes as Israeli forces continue their strikes across Gaza, killing at least 30 people, including 6 children this weekend, in violation of the ceasefire. Some of the victims were taking shelter in tents. This was reportedly one of the deadliest Israeli airstrikes on Gaza in months. In Iran, authorities arrested Mehdi Mahmoudyan, who was nominated for an Oscar for co-writing the screenplay for Jafar Panahi's acclaimed film, It Was Just an Accident. The arrest comes as Mahmoudyan signed a public statement condemning Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. The statement also denounced the crackdown on anti-government protesters, saying, quote, "The mass and systematic killing of citizens who bravely took to the streets to bring an end to an illegitimate regime constitutes an organized state crime against humanity," unquote. Meanwhile, Irfan Soltani, who was reportedly sentenced to death for participating in anti-government protests, was released on bail, according to human rights groups. In Texas, Democrats flipped a state Senate seat and picked up an additional congressional seat in a special election. Democrat Christian Menefee won the special election runoff Saturday for Texas's 8th congressional district, narrowing Republicans' majority in the House to just 4 seats. Meanwhile, in a race for Texas State Senate, Democrat Taylor Remmett flipped a district that President Trump had won by 17 percentage points in 2024. President Trump announced he's closing the Kennedy Center for 2 years for renovations. It comes as President Trump's hand-picked board of trustees added his name to the Kennedy Center's building back in December, leading to a wave of artist boycotts. CNN's reporting Kennedy Center staff found out about the closure through President Trump's social media post about the renovation. It comes as the Kennedy Center currently lists no scheduled events to honor Black History Month after several artists canceled their events to protest President Trump's takeover. And artists attending the Grammys last night wore anti-ICE pins, while others used their victory speeches to speak out against President Trump's mass raids and deportations. Among them, Bad Bunny, who took home 3 awards, including Album of the Year, making history as the first Spanish-language album to win in that category. Bad Bunny's from Puerto Rico. He'll be performing in the Super Bowl halftime show next weekend. This is part of his Grammy speech last night.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say eyes out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans. Also, I want to say to the people, I know it's tough to know, not to hate on these days, and I was thinking, sometime we get contaminados. I don't know how to say that in English. The hate get more powerful with more hate. The only thing that is more powerful than hate is love.
And this is singer-songwriter Billie Eilish, who won for Best Song of the Year.
As grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land. Yeah, it's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now. And I feel really hopeful in this room, and I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting, and our voices really do matter, and the people matter.
After Eilish received her Grammy, Trevor Noah said, "That's a Grammy that every artist wants almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense because Epstein's island is gone. He needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton," Noah said. And President Trump on social media threatened to sue him. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.